Hi there, as I'm sure you just heard, I'm Ernest Robinson. In 2007, New York State Representative Carolyn McCarthy sponsored a bill to control assault weapons, banning, among other things, foregrips, high-capacity magazines, and barrel shrouds. She did this despite, at the very least, not knowing what a barrel shroud was. When questioned on national television on the subject, she described it hilariously inaccurately as the shoulder thing that goes up. What I'm here to do is to make sure that if you're ever asked to make such a decision on firearms, you do so from a position of knowledge rather than ignorance. What credibility I have mostly comes from research. I have some experience with firearms, but I'll admit it's slight. As for why this is relevant to you, gun control is a major political issue. Gun ownership is something that, as American citizens, we have the option for. As such, y'all need to understand your options, I'd say, before you make a decision one way or the other. Understanding guns can be broken down essentially into understanding three things. Understanding bullets, understanding the actions of the guns, and understanding gun safety. Now, starting with bullets. A gun is defined by its bullet. You have mostly two big types. Cartridges, that being a simple slug of lead propelled by a charge of gunpowder in a brass casing. This is what's mostly fired from pistols, rifles, that kind of thing. It's very simple and is just an explosive propelled down a tube. You also have shotgun shells. These offer a little more variety. You can have shot shells, which are a pack of BBs of varying sizes, buckshot, birdshot, what have you, with a explosive behind it. You can also have slugs, which, much like rifle or pistol rounds, are a slug of solid metal with an explosive behind it again. In any case, explosive detonates, propels the slug down the barrel. Now, if a gun is defined by its bullet, it is refined by its action. Despite the firearms encyclopedia listing dozens of kinds of actions, they can be mostly broken down into two types. Manual actions, such as pump actions that you see in shotguns, or bolt actions that you see in sniper rifles or hunting rifles, which are actions where the next bullet comes into the chamber only by human intervention. Everything that moves in the gun moves because you move it. Then there's repeating actions, and those are much more technically complex, but essentially they rely on the fact that the bullet is being fired, whether it's the explosive force itself or channeling the gases elsewhere, to move the bolt back and move the next bullet into the chamber on its own. Those are usually seen with semi-automatic pistols or assault rifles, machine guns, that kind of thing. But the most important thing that any beginner to guns is going to need to understand is gun safety. There are two major parts to gun safety. One of them is the gun. And there are two main ways to see that it's safe. One of them is a device on the gun called the safety. It's an object that prevents the trigger from being depressed, keeps the firing pin from moving forward, the gun won't fire. It's usually just a little button. It varies from one to another. But the first thing you need to do with any new gun is find the safety. Make sure you understand where and what that is. The other thing is it loaded? No gun is safe, whether you think the safety is on or not, if there's a bullet in the chamber. And you should not consider the chamber to be empty unless you can see that it's empty. For a handgun, you want the slide racked back. For a rifle, you want the bolt open. The essentials are the same. Make sure you can see that there is nothing in the gun. And the other thing is the user. A gun can only be as safe as the person using it. Make sure that your finger's off the trigger. This is called trigger discipline. Make sure that the barrel does not point at anything you don't want to shoot. This is called a muzzle sweep. Hollywood has a habit of doing that one especially hilariously badly. Plan 9 from Outer Space. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that. It's quite possibly the worst movie ever made. And in it, in one memorable scene, a police constable points his loaded revolver and uses it to scratch his own head with the barrel, with his finger still on the trigger. A wonderful example of how not to do it. Thank you, director Ed Wood. Now, all that having been said, this has all been extremely basic information. No one will be an expert after having heard this speech, but I think you all will at least understand the subject a little better. Firearms is, well, a rather explosive topic, and understanding it, I'd say, is necessary to judge it well or badly. You need to understand the pros and cons, the ups and downs, before you try and decide if they are good or bad. There are many types of bullets and there are many types of guns, but they are all dangerous objects and must be treated with the respect such objects deserve. Whether you choose to own or not, whether you decide they need to be regulated or not, at the very least, I hope I've armed you all with knowledge. Thank you.